Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined on this Thursday by Robert Meyer Burnett.
Great to be here. It's crazy out there, John. Crazy.
It is crazy out there. Jonathan Voico's here.
Good morning, everybody.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or topic you'd like to hear us address, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And if you send it in as we're live, we'll get around to answering it in the second part of the show. But here's the good news about the tip link. It's actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be listening to the show later, say on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app of choice, or if you're watching this video a little bit later in the day, you can still send in a question. And if you send one in when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. With that down, let's get things started off with this. Of course, it is always a big deal when Christopher Nolan has a new movie coming. That's just becomes a major mark on the calendar that everybody's looking forward to. It's especially exciting when he's taking on such an iconic IP as the Odyssey. And then it becomes especially exciting when you look at the cast that the guy has. Now, they recently shared our first look at Matt Damon, who's going to be, I guess, the main lead of the film. He's been a supporting character for him a couple of times. Now he gets to be a main. Well, now we're getting our first looks at guys like John Bernthal and Tom Holland. Now, the good folks over at Joe Blow, they've got this thing, get a peek at John Bernthal and Tom Holland. So here they are kind of behind the scenes meeting some of the, I think, members of the Greek Film Commission and stuff like that when they're there with Christopher Nolan. John Bernthal sporting a look that I am not accustomed to seeing him in.
Nor I.
The whole shaved head with the big full beard going on. Tom Holland looks like Tom Holland. Nothing wrong with that. That's how he's supposed to look in there, I suppose. And we had some other images there too, right, Jonathan?
Yeah,
What else do we have in there?
Well, we got Nolan here, I think, so with the same commission.
Yeah, with the same
standing there.
Nolan there. Look, is there a law in Hollywood? Rob, you would know this. As a member of the DGA, is there a rule that you have to wear the scarf over everything? Is that
absolutely.
Like
yeah. The length of the scarf is regulated.
Yeah.
Also, it comes with sometimes a beret. It's usually supposed to be, but Americans don't wear berets.
Oh,
so-
Rob even wears it for the True Noir
or the
recording.
Brits. Yeah,
whenever he's recording True Noir.
Yeah, I wear a scarf and my beret, and I bring my bullhorn,
Yeah.
and of course my lens that I walk with.
Even
everywhere.
though it's audio.
I'm gonna see if I don't think I'm gonna find it. No, I'm probably not. No, I'm definitely not gonna find it. But you guys know that my friend Dennis Zen recently he made his what was it called? Best Bros Forever. He did his little movie Best Bros Forever, and I was recently at the world premiere of it with him. I'm just gonna see if I've got, you know what? I must have erased the picture or something like that.
Was he wearing it too?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
He got up when it came time for the Q&A. He got up on the front, and of course he's got his t-shirt with the jacket over it.
Sure.
And the silk white scarf. I'm
There
like,
you
what
go.
is it with the directors? I'm never gonna let Dennis live that one down.
Well, theoretically, when you're in the desert, a scarf is utilitarian. Because you wipe it over you put it over your mouth.
But he was,
It's
at the, he was at the Chinese theater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
he
it's known for the sand that blows. It's such a vast space.
That's true.
So let's take a look at some other ones.
I think
here.
these might have been shot from a separate Greek island, but judging by the quality, but yeah.
Yep, he had to Christopher Nolan is replacing the scarf with a life jacket there apparently. But then
Yeah.
again, another good look.
This could have been out of
It's
Lord of
kind
the
of a
Rings.
scarf.
Yeah, you know what? If the world didn't know that Christopher Nolan was doing the Odyssey, and you put up that picture and you just said
He's
Christopher
Frodo.
Nolan has secretly been filming a new Lord of the Rings film.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I could see Tom
People
Holland
would-
as Frodo.
Totally, Tom Holland is new Frodo. Frodo the Return.
Yeah.
All right, what else do we
right.
got
Coming
in
back
there?
from the Grey Havens.
Now, who's the actor there with Tom? I can't really tell.
I can't either.
You know, if I know he's not in the movie, but what was the guy the name who played Jax in Sons of Anarchy again? And he was in The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey. He was Matthew McConaughey's right-hand guy. Oh, why am I freezing it on his name? Someone in the live chat is saying that's Paul Walter Hauser.
I mean, it's definitely not
Charlie Hunnam. Charlie
Oh,
Hunnam.
I-
Like Charlie Hunnam's not in the movie, but just looking at this
We're
picture,
sure that's not Matt Damon with long hair, right?
I'm not sure. I mean, it could be anybody, I guess.
Could be Matt Damon. It
Could be
even
Sean Bean.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
is that it? Where there's
Let's see. No, we got another little shot.
that,
of
another one,
Frodo
Frodo.
there.
Yeah, another picture of Frodo.
And then he's just like smiling at someone there. But yeah.
So our first looks at behind the scenes. Rob, I know we were all really excited, like when we found out, number one, everybody got excited with Christopher Nolan's got his next movie. Then we found out Christopher Nolan's next movie is coming out next year. Christopher Nolan's next movie is The Odyssey. And then we found out the cast. What are you thinking about the images we're seeing? You know, we like the Matt Damon one. How are we feeling that John Bernthal and Tom Holland are kind of fitting in there? And where's your anticipation level like right now for The Odyssey?
Well, look, any Christopher Nolan movie is worth watching. Even if look, I think Tenet, you know, I didn't love Tenet, but boy, is it gorgeous to look at. And I enjoy watching it. And I think that anything he makes is going to be worth seeing. I find it, you know what? I'm excited for it only to see what he does with it. I kind of feel the same way about this movie as I was feeling about Dunkirk. I'm like, I knew the story of Dunkirk. I'm like, I get it, but how are you going to make a Christopher Nolan movie out of Dunkirk? And he turned it into this kind of art film where he's dealing with 3 different time periods, and it was way different than I thought. And from the opening frames, I was absolutely riveted. So I've heard a lot of people looking at this going, well, this doesn't look impressive. And it's like, it's dudes on a boat.
It's a set photo.
Like you're watching set photo. When is fandom ever going to learn that probably the most least interesting thing that you can see is a behind the scenes photo? It has nothing to do with what's in the frame. Yeah. Nothing. And yet, over and over again, since I've been on the internet, this looks terrible. This doesn't look good at all. And it's like, you guys, you're not even. It has
blocking
nothing.
the shot there, probably.
I mean, I guess because I've been on so many sets shooting behind the scenes myself, you know, that I can tell you that behind the scenes footage has nothing at all. And I have to tell you, I've shot thousands of hours of it. It has nothing at all to do with what a finished film looks like.
Well,
you can watch. I shot 2,000 hours of footage on the set of Superman Returns, and none of it looks anything like the finished movie does. None of it. Zero.
And I mean,
because you're not shooting. The whole premise behind it is you're watching people doing things. You're never really looking at what the camera's seeing.
Exactly.
So you're looking at everything but what the camera sees. And when you see what the camera sees, then you want to see the finished film. You don't want to see behind the scenes photos. It's like, no, show me the real movie.
But even to that point, I mean, both of us, all 3 of us editors, like, even if you're seeing what the camera sees, if people saw what editors saw, it'd be like, this looks like crap.
We haven't even put a LUT on this yet. I mean, it's like, come on.
By the way, bring up that one picture again of them on the boat. I can just see it now. The Odyssey is just a fake title. It's actually Christopher Nolan produces Boats and Hose. It's finally here. Boats and Hose, the movie, is now here. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? We're getting our first kind of peek at Tom Holland, John Bernthal's look. Where's your anticipation level like for the Odyssey right now? Whatever you guys are thinking, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
Boats and Hose. I want to see that movie.
All right. With that down, guys, let's move on and talk about this, shall we? You know, one of the rare wins, there have been a few wins, and one of those rare wins for Star Wars in recent years has been the first couple seasons of Mandalorian. I wasn't a big fan of Mandalorian season 3, I'll admit, but I mean, the first couple seasons of Mandalorian, I love. And one of the big reasons that people really like the Mandalorian was because of Giancarlo Esposito's Moff Gideon, who was great. We saw him, the first one in the show, to wield the dark saber. Remember that, as he cut himself out of his TIE fighter, stuff like that. It was great. Now, I wasn't a particularly huge fan about how they brought his character to conclusion in season 3. But lest you think that's the end of it, because we all thought he died in season 3. Well, now we got Giancarlo Esposito saying that he can come back. This comes to us from the folks over at CBR, quoting Giancarlo Esposito. There's a big movie coming out that's focusing on Mando and the child, he said. I can't say Moff Gideon's return will be that, but I hope to be able to join that franchise again because I think there is more road for Moff Gideon.
Can I just break in real quick? He did that in character. Because you notice the quote said the Mandalorian and the child.
Right.
As how he refers
Not
to
Grogu.
him. Not Grogu.
Not
as
Baby
the child.
Yoda.
He did that quota in character.
The child. So here we have one of the stars of the series saying, oh, hold on a second. I know we saw him kind of definitively die, but he said, I think there's actually more story to tell. I'm not saying I'm going to be back in Mando and Grogu, although now I'm thinking maybe he will. But he said, there's more road for this character. I can absolutely come back. So Rob, let me pose the question to you. With the fact that it's kind of a messy thing, right? Because he was great as Moff Gideon. Didn't really love the ending of him, but they did give him an ending. Do you think we could see Moff Gideon return to this universe? Or is this just Giancarlo Esposito trying to keep the doors open? What do you think?
Look, man, if they can bring Darth Maul back after he was cut in half,
and thrown down a pit,
they can bring back anybody. And I love Moff Gideon. The one thing I've really loved about modern Star Wars is all the Imperial officers.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Moff Gideon, whether it's Thrawn, whether it's what's Ben Mendelsohn's character, Krennic.
Oh yeah,
you know,
Krennic.
I love Krennic's my favorite. Might be my favorite modern Star Wars character. and then all the characters in Andor. I love them. I want the Empire to win. Bring back Moff Gideon. I love Moff Gideon.
You know, I can just see it now. We're sit down in the theater for The Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie, and the opening crawl starts. Somehow, Moff Gideon has returned. That's all you gotta do. It's the most Star Wars thing to do. Look,
just Moff Gideon speaks with an
accent. Moff Gideon speaks. The dead speak.
Yeah.
Look. Would it be a little bit of a sigh if they brought him back at this point, especially after the disappointment that was season 3? Maybe. But here's the reality. It would give them an opportunity to maybe give a proper ending to Moff Gideon's character. Because look, he was one of the most popular things about the show.
Yeah.
Right? And he is right now in movies and entertainment in general, but also in genre fan circles. He's a super popular guy, Giancarlo Esposito. He's great. We've had a chance to meet him. He's terrific. So I think I would be good with it if they decided to bring him back. It would be with a little bit of pinching my nose while they do it, but I think I would be okay with it just for the opportunity to have a better ending for the character and just to bring such a great character into the story. But if I had to be honest, I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is just Giancarlo keeping the door open and speaking as a fan. I don't think it'll happen, although I would be okay with it. Guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? Giancarlo Esposito says, hey, I don't think Moff Gideon's story is done. Do you agree with him? Do you think we could see Gideon back, whether it's in Mando and Grogu or whether it's in something a little bit further along? Or do you think that's just too much of a stretch? It's time to move on. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, listen, we still have a few other things to talk about here, including major reports coming in the big trades that Daniel Craig is going to be joining the upcoming Chronicles of Narnia film. And have you guys seen those whispers going around that Denzel Washington's going to be Magneto? Well, Matthew Fassbender has seen those as well, and he gives his little kind of thoughts on it. We're going to talk about those things and a few things more, but before we do, we're going to take a quick second to thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Kikoff and NordVPN. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Kikoff. Man, time flies, doesn't it? 1 minute, you're reminiscing about your last vacation, and the next, you're thinking about major life goals, like buying a car, getting that dream home. But if your credit isn't where it needs to be, those goals can feel out of reach. And that's where Kikoff comes in, the #1 credit building app in the App Store that makes it easy, affordable, and stress-free to build credit fast. And that's exactly why I love Kikoff. They give you a credit line for just building credit, not for spending. Your on-time payments get reported to the 3 major credit bureaus, helping you improve your credit mix and payment history, 2 of the biggest factors in credit growth. If your credit is under 600, you could see a jump of about 28 points in your first month. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest, just smart credit building. Building credit can happen faster than you expect with Kikoff. Don't wait. Get your first month for just $1 at getkikoff.com/Campea. That's Kikoff without the C. Get 80% off at getkikoff.com/Campea. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/Campea to activate offer. Offer applies to new customers first month only, subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply. Point stat based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0 changes for Kikoff users starting under 600 who made their first on-time payment between January of 2021 and March of 2024. Payment and credit activity outside Kikoff can have an impact on your credit. Individual results may vary. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. All right, let's be real. There's nothing worse than wanting to stream your favorite show or watch a live game only to find out it's blocked in your country. But guess what? With NordVPN, that is never a problem. With just one click, you can switch your virtual location and access content from anywhere in the world. I have loved using NordVPN. Whether I'm traveling and using public Wi-Fi or just shopping online, NordVPN keeps my personal info safe and private. By switching my location, I can even save money on flights, hotels, and subscriptions. It's like a cheat code for getting the best deals. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, so there's no buffering when I'm streaming. Plus, their threat protection feature blocks malware, trackers, and phishing attempts, keeping my devices safe 24/7. And with just one account, I can protect up to 10 devices, so my whole setup is covered. So to get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/John Campea, and our link will even give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Links in the description. Check it out now. And thank you to our friends at Kikoff and NordVPN for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, that down? Let's get into this, shall we? You know, coming off of her global triumph, the Barbie movie, which ended up being the #1 box office film in the world that year, Greta Gerwig had the world at her feet. And for some reason that I still don't understand, she decided to join forces with Netflix to make Chronicles of Narnia.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, there must have been a lot of money, man. Because I still to this day, as a fan of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and C.S. Lewis and Chronicles of Narnia, I mean, I've read C.S. Lewis books that are probably many of you have never heard of, whether the Screw Tape Letters, Smear Christianity, things like that. But
he wrote 3 science fiction novels too.
He did. I'm actually a big fan of him mainly as a theologian, but still, and I love the Chronicles of Narnia. But still, she's doing it. Whatever. But this is interesting. Deadline is now reporting that Daniel Craig has an offer in hand. They have offered him a role in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which means they've negotiated, talked, and he's got an offer. And they wouldn't give him an offer if they didn't think he was probably going to take it. So he hasn't officially joined. It's 99% chance that he's going to do it at this point. Anyway, they wrote the following about this. Exclusive. While it's super early in the deal-making process, sources tell Deadline that Netflix and director Greta Gerwig are aiming high for the next piece of casting on their Chronicles of Narnia movie, as Daniel Craig has an offer to join the cast. Sources stress that it is unknown whether Craig will ultimately come on board, but they do add that he does hold the offer. It is also unknown who he would be playing in the film. All right. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm guessing he's not the witch.
He's going to be investigating who murdered Aslan.
He's Mr. Tumnus.
I was going to say, I do not think you're going to see Mr. Tumnus. I don't think, what's the name of the candy she seduces him with?
Turkish Delights.
Turkish Delights. I don't think he's going to be Turkish Delights, boy.
You know.
I mean,
Have
look.
you had a Turkish Delight?
Look, does anybody, look, it's not official clearly, but does anybody doubt that he's going to be filling in the shoes of Liam Neeson to be the voice of Aslan, right? That's who you get Daniel Craig for. I just don't see who else he could play. Do you?
No.
It's kind of what we're all thinking.
Unless he's like the uncle of the kids that opens the.
I thought that
Like
too.
some small role?
I thought that too, possibly.
But I mean, yeah, I was perplexed by that. I don't know who he's going to play.
I mean, look, I just don't see there being any other role that you would get a Daniel Craig to play other than Jesus Cat, right? Jesus Cat is who he's going to be the voice of. And I hope he does it in a thick James Bond accent too. I hope he does it like in a thick James Bond accent.
Jesus Cat.
So look, like I said, I still am perplexed by why Greta Gerwig, who coming off of the biggest film of the year, multiple award seasons accolades, world at her feet, can do anything she probably wants, choosing to do this particular project. I still don't know why, but you bring somebody like Daniel Craig on board and all of a sudden you have my attention. even if he's just being the voice of Jesus Cat.
John, this might be a stupid question, but are they starting with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
I do not know. They have not said.
I don't think they have, because
I think they will, but I haven't heard them say it.
Yeah, I'm assuming that, but there's 7 Narnia books, and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is not the first. I mean, it was the first. Yeah, I mean,
Magician's Nephew.
There's the Silver Chair.
Magician's Nephew, Silver Chair.
He could be the magician in the Magician's Nephew.
I mean, that's the interesting thing. Are they going to do all of it?
You know, it's funny because they keep just referring to it as the Chronicles of Narnia movie.
What?
Yeah.
So are they going to try to just do like an amalgamation of like Prince Caspian and, you know, a couple of the other stories and just kind of make it into one thing, or are they planning on?
I don't know. That's why I just realized I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's back it up a little bit though, Rob, because like I've stated here, I think it was a questionable decision by Greta Gerwig to make this her next project, to be honest with you, especially when the world was kind of at her feet. How are you feeling about her decision to do this? I mean, Cha-ching is right. They probably did give her a big load of money, but I don't know. Do you think it was the right move for her at this point? Do you think it's just she does this while she's developing something else? I don't know. How do you see it?
You know, like I was just telling you, I spent 2 years of my life covering the filming of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I mean, we were in country in New Zealand for 14 months on that project. It's monstrously huge. I mean, it was the biggest production I've ever been on. I mean, it was gigantic. And I can see, I mean, the thing about Barbie was a lot of it was built in studio.
Yeah.
You know, and so I can see that it was a large movie as well. So I can understand she can probably handle the scope. But as an indie filmmaker, it's perplexing to me that she would jump from Barbie to Narnia, because with this big franchise IP, is this going to dominate her life for the next 10 years? Is she going to make one movie? Like, I guess I'd have to know more about what her intent is in terms of what she hopes to bring to this franchise. Because I was just telling you, Andrew Adamson had only directed the Shrek movies before he had jumped on to this big live action extravaganza. And it was I admire him because it was a tough job, really difficult work. So I don't know. I mean, I would have thought she would have gone back and done like what Nolan did, you know, do her Prestige or her movie for herself, one for them, one for me. But I mean, hey, if you're going to get Narnia, and maybe she's a huge Narnia fan from the time she was a kid, but I don't know enough about this project to understand. There's got to be something about it that she loves. Otherwise, I mean, this is a daunting project. It's huge. If it's Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it's huge.
But here's the bigger question I have, and this is why I wonder if it was the right decision for her to come and do this. Does the general audience care about what Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe anymore? Do they care about the Chronicles of Narnia? Because that other franchise, it started pretty well. I can't remember how much the first one made, but I think it started pretty solid. But then you eventually just had diminishing returns. They tried to do another kind of thing on a little while ago. That didn't really have interest. I just don't know. I'm not hearing a lot of people going, you know what we really need? Another take on the Chronicles of Narnia. And I just don't know that there's going to be, even if it is for a streamer like Netflix, I just don't know if the interest is there. Do you think the interest is there with the audience?
You know, here's the thing. I even thought this, like, yeah, there's a big battle at the end. I think that the Chronicles of Narnia, unlike Lord of the Rings, I mean, The Hobbit was written for children. Lord of the Rings was not. But I think that Lion, the Witch, the whole Chronicles of Narnia skews young. Mm-hmm. You know, even younger than Harry Potter in a way. Because I read the Narnia books.
But do young kids today know the Chronicles of Narnia?
No, I don't think they do. And I think that the young kids today are maybe it's a little above them. I mean, you can make this work. I'm not saying a great fantasy epic can't work. But the Chronicles of Narnia is what I would call soft. Mm-hmm. It's soft.
It's like the entry level.
Lord of the Rings is apocalyptic, and it's about the end of the world. And it has some really dark themes. Chronicles of Narnia is not that way. So I don't know if today's audiences, and they had the same problem, by the way. I thought Chronicles of Narnia, I thought Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe turned out really, really well for what it was, but it was still soft. You know, coming on the heels, oh, Lord of the Rings works. We're going to go back and, of course, do C.S. Lewis's Narnia books. And it's like, but they're not the same. You know, they work in a different way. So I don't know. I mean, I would assume that Greta Gerwig has a take on it that everybody loves because they're going to invest a heck of a lot of money. But I don't know. It's perplexing to me.
The first...
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say the first one did make $745, but then the following two films, Prince Caspian and Voyage of the Dawn Treader, were in the 400s, so a big drop.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, like I don't hear anybody asking for a return to Narnia. Somebody in the live chat, and this is a good thing to point out, somebody in the live chat said nobody was asking for a Peacemaker show. True.
That is true.
But we had never had a Peacemaker show.
Right.
We have had the Chronicles of Narnia, and it didn't go over great by the time the franchise ended. So I'm just questioning whether a return to it is great or not. Now, I hope, much like I was never asking for a Peacemaker show and I ended up loving it, I hope Greta Gerwig makes something fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. But like you said, and also the Chronicles of Narnia is a story that it's inherently about 4 kids, if you start with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
And they're kids in wartime,
right.
World War II,
yeah.
Britain. And are you going to do that again? Maybe it's an updating. Maybe it's kids today. I don't know.
Kids today.
Kids today go through the wardrobe. Kids today don't know what a wardrobe is. But I'm sure if they found one, they could go through it.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Daniel Craig is apparently being circled to join the upcoming Greta Gerwig's Chronicles of Narnia film. I mean, I love the addition of Daniel Craig to anything. That ups the ante a lot. I think that would be great. I still don't know if this is the right project to do, but still, him adding to it definitely increases my interest. How do you guys feel about it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? You guys know, of course, that it has been confirmed by Denzel Washington himself, and then a studio guy, and then Denzel Washington again, that Denzel Washington is joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he revealed it in talking about how Ryan Coogler has got a character for him in Black Panther 3. Well, some whispers started going around that I'm sure all of you guys have heard, that the character he's actually going to be playing, and we have no confirmation anywhere, nobody does, about whether this is true or not. Probably not, but still, the whispers have started going around, and you guys have probably heard it, that Denzel is actually being looked at to play Magneto. Now, I personally love that idea. I'll get around to why in a minute. But Josh Horowitz on his Happy Sad, I believe the name of his podcast is Happy Sad Confused.
Mm-hmm.
I should know because we have the same rep, he and I. So I should probably know that automatically. But he was talking to Michael Fassbender for his new movie coming up with Cate Blanchett. And he decided to throw it in there. What would he think about it? This is what Michael Fassbender says. So Josh Horowitz asks, they're going to cast somebody as Magneto. You got to pass the baton at some point. Michael Fassbender says, I think it's great. I'm excited to see who does it. Josh says, the latest crazy rumor. I don't know if this is real, by the way, or I don't think this is real, by the way, but Denzel. Fassbender responds, as Magneto, I mean, brilliant. He's a heavyweight. Horowitz says, if you're going to pass the baton to someone, Fassbender, I don't even think I could pass the baton. He's incredible. So you've got the endorsement here of the guy who last played Magneto for us in Michael Fassbender, who I remember when they were still, I don't know why they did, but there were still a lot of people when they were casting, a lot of people still said, no, it still has to be Ian McKellen. And I remember on the show, like, guys, it's supposed to be like way in the past.
He can play young.
Much younger. You can digitally de-age him. Anyway, so they got Michael Fassbender, and he was awesome.
Yeah.
Not Ian McKellen awesome, but awesome. He was great as Magneto. And now he's coming out. Now, the big problem, Rob, we've talked about this before. The problem you're going to face with Magneto in doing any kind of iteration of him today is, unless your movie is set in the 80s or maybe the 90s, you simply don't have an actor old enough to play the age Magneto's supposed to be. If you want to stick to that, Magneto has had several different background origin stories, but in the one that everybody's most familiar with today, the one where he is a child survivor of concentration camps. An actor trying to play that today would have to be in the early 90s. And I just don't know. Early 90s, mid 80s to early 90s is somebody you'd have to get if you actually want to be accurate to that. If you're setting your story in the modern world today. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't work. So you're kind of forced to say, okay, well, we can't have his background be coming out of the concentration camps. So we have to change whatever that was. The important thing about Magneto, Rob, that I've always thought is not the specifics of him coming out of the concentration camps. The important thing is, as a young man, he bore horrible witness to the absolute worst of humanity, which turned his heart against humanity and lost all of his faith in humanity. The concentration camps is a great expression of that, but there have been others. I've often said the Rwandan genocide or some other big human atrocities that have been committed over the years. Somebody made him watch Cats as a kid. I don't know. So it's like some major horrible atrocities. And if you do that, then you make it plausible. To which then some people come back and say, well, just say Magneto doesn't age. That has never been a part of Magneto's character. That is not one of his mutant abilities.
It doesn't even make sense because, 50 years from now, 60 years from now, the idea of Magneto is still going to be around. And then when they make a movie of Magneto and we're 50, 60 years from now, you can't say this guy came from World War II. That doesn't even make sense. No. You're going to have to eventually face it.
Yeah, and again, I completely stand opposed to the idea of fundamentally changing the very nature of the character. He is the master of magnetism. He is not the Highlander. So you're going to have to...
That'd be awesome, though.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Christopher Lambert as Magneto. So you're going to have to change it up. And if you do, you need a character who can bring the sophistication and the fury of Eric. Somebody who can bring that righteous fury that Magneto's...
Furious anger.
Furious anger. And by the way, I want to point out, Magneto is my all-time favorite comic book character. I've never had a more favorite comic book character than Magneto. Not in the movies, I mean in the comics. He's my all-time favorite character. So, listen, and if that's the case, you are literally talking about, if you're listening to these rumors, you're literally talking about an actor who is legitimately in every conversation about the Mount Rushmore of actors, right? Like maybe you put him on, maybe you don't, but he's in your conversation. Denzel's in the conversation. And if you have the opportunity to get a guy who can bring what he brings to the screen, one of the greatest of all times, to a character like this, why not? Now, some people may say, but that wouldn't make sense because they already said the character, whoever it is he's playing, is going to be in Black Panther 3. Black Panther himself was introduced in a Captain America movie. That's okay. It sounds like we might be getting introduced to Jean Grey in Spider-Man 4.
Black Panther was married to Storm.
I mean, so there's a lot of wiggle room there. Mm-hmm. I just know this. Do I think Denzel is ultimately going to be Magneto? If I had to bet $1, I'd say no. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be somebody else. But I'll also say we would be damn lucky as a fandom to have legitimately one of the GOATs to play such an important role. I would be all for it. Rob, I just don't think it's actually going to happen. Anyway, what's your take to this? And what did you think about Michael Fassbender's reaction?
Well, I think his reaction's what I would have thought too. I mean, I love Denzel Washington. He's one of my favorite actors. I've loved. I mean, I've been watching him virtually his entire career. But I have another thought about what they could do with Magneto. Obviously, when the X-Men were created back in the 60s, you're dealing with the time period of our world as it was in the 1960s. But the Marvel universe as it exists now, they've locked it into like it's a few years ahead of us. Like it was. So here's the thing. Wakanda's not a real country. The Talocan, is it the Talocan? Empire, Atlantis is not real.
Right.
There is no celestial island on this planet. So if you wanted
Why
to
don't you tell kids there's no Santa Claus, Rob? Why don't you just do
Rob.
that?
The point, what I'm saying is
so sad.
Science fiction has always worked best in an allegorical way.
Right.
And one of the mistakes that they've been doing with modern Star Trek is they keep trying to tie it to our real history.
Just like you tie modern Star Trek to our show.
Well, that's right. But it never was a part of our real history. That was something that came later. Now, when they created Magneto, what if they create a fictional occurrence from the past of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or something that happened in the Marvel
A fictitious atrocity,
Yes.
Yeah.
likened unto Sokovia.
Yeah, 100%. And they do something like that, and it could be analogous to the Rwandan genocide, but on a much larger scale. And maybe he blames Wakanda for not stepping in.
Oh,
You know, you didn't help. So he's not just pissed. He's got a lot of reasons to be pissed, and it could be something that's really interesting and clever. That completely look, the Holocaust happened in a very specific time. But if you create an event that's based, and by the way, it allows you, I'm sure there's something in Marvel's history that they could actually extrapolate upon, and they can say this was a horrible thing. Or you could even go back and say, I mean, we haven't seen mutants, whether it was the destruction of Genosha or Utopia or something along those lines. We don't know what it is, but something. And it could be interesting because it would be owned by the MCU.
Yeah.
It would be, because their mythology is different than the Marvel Comics mythology. The MCU has its own mythology. So you could literally create something and make it just as rich and give them a backstory that the movies themselves own. And yet you could still have, because Denzel would be great as like the firebrand. You know, they were literally when the X-Men were created, you had Martin Luther King and you had Malcolm X.
Right.
And they were both coming from a problem from different points of view. You could do that today and make it much more relevant to what's happening in our world now. Look, I don't know how to do that, but it would be something clever writers could do. And that way, Denzel Washington's take on Magneto would be his definitive one. Like, nobody would be comparing and contrasting because the background would be different. So you can look at people, but give him his own story. And I think that would do Denzel justice. You know, so people they would allow him they let Denzel be Denzel.
Well, I mean, listen, they also played around in the movies. They played around with the origin story of Wolverine, all that kind of stuff. And I like your point in general, because like they kind of did that with Sokovia.
Yeah,
the Talokans got axes to grind. We've got the fictitious country of Latveria, coming in pretty soon. At least we assume they are at some point.
I mean, maybe it's connected to Doom somehow.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, look, the one big argument against Denzel actually being Magneto,
right? I mean,
is the fact that it's not because he's too big, right? We now live in a world where we have Academy Award winners joining the MCU or the DCU, right? When you've got, you know, Anthony Hopkins playing Odin, and you've got why am I freezing on Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Robert Redford.
Yeah.
When you've got him, when you've got Kate Blanchett.
Right. Michael Douglas.
When you've got Michael Douglas, it is not off the table that Denzel Washington could absolutely come into it. But here's the argument against it, though. I don't know that you could get Denzel to sign on for 5 movies.
Right.
I don't know if you can get a Denzel Washington to make that kind of long-term commitment that... Because let's face it, Magneto's not just going to show up in Black Panther 3 and maybe one X-Men movie, right? They're going to need somebody who's committed to staying around a bit longer than that. And I just don't know that you can get Denzel to do that.
And isn't he speaking of retirement?
He's been speaking about, like, here's the thing about Denzel, though. He says, I'm planning my retirement. I think maybe I'll do this movie.
After these 15
and
movies.
then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And he literally lists off like a dozen films.
Yeah.
So who knows? But I just don't know that you can get him to sign on. It's a little bit like Joaquin Phoenix that way, right? That's ultimately why they lost out on Joaquin Phoenix as Doctor Strange. They had it almost all lined up, but they could not agree on the length of the contract. He didn't want to be tied down to a bunch of multiple pictures. He liked the idea of playing Doctor Strange in a one-time Doctor Strange movie. And I wonder, Rob, if that would hold him back. Do you think that would be an obstacle for him, or do you think there'd be other really good reasons why we shouldn't expect it to be done?
No, I think that's because he's 70, you know, and it's like, how long I mean, McKellen's going strong, but you never know. I mean, maybe he's done his bit for King and Country and like pulls a Hackman and wants to retire. You know, I don't know. I think that Denzel Washington has done so much. He's directed, he's acted, he's had a 40-year plus career. He's on St. Elsewhere, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is. I mean, that guy's done it all. He doesn't have to apologize or prove anything to anybody. He's one of the GOATs. You know, he's one of the great screen actors of our era. Although, you know, maybe later in life he's got kids. get some more money, put it away for them, leave something behind.
Grandkid. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about his one kid. John David's doing perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, but I mean, the legacy. Maybe him and his wife want to be philanthropists and do things for people in their later. It's always nice to pick up that cash, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I would look. I'm not gonna lie. I'd love to see Denzel play Magneto. I mean, but go full on, world dominating. The cover of X-Men 1 when they started X-Men 1 with the triptych cover or whatever. Yeah. I'd love to see full on Denzel. I hate you people. You're all gonna die. I mean, I would love to see that. It would be great.
But to a point that you were saying too, I remember when I had the chance to talk to Anthony Hopkins about Odin, and I remember asking him about why would you, what's about this that appeals to you? And I remember him talking specifically about, I want to be the cool guy to my grandkids.
Right. Yeah.
Because they don't care that I'm Anthony Hopkins. I'm just weird old grandpa. I want to be cool to my grandkids. And I don't know, maybe Denzel could look at it that way, that he wants to be cool.
I want to see Denzel as that guy.
Oh.
I mean, full on. And if you're going to make it something more modern,
Charles Xavier ain't got nothing on me. That's the line you'd have to throw in there.
That's what I want. I want that. I want the Magneto that pulls Wolverine's adamantium skin
straight off of his bones.
I want to see full on. Yeah, I want to see him wrecking fools, as you would say.
We do have to be getting close, not weeks, but close to getting some actual casting announcements about our X-Men characters, right? Especially if they're teasing that we're going to see a couple of them in either Doomsday or Secret Wars, which, I mean, Doomsday is coming out next year.
I know.
So we got to be getting at least.
They start shooting this month?
We might have just found out who our Jean Grey is. If Sadie Sink does actually end up being Jean Grey, which is what kind of the prevailing thought is, maybe she won't be, I don't know, but we're going to have to find out soon. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What would you think about this? I mean, obviously, Rob, myself, and Michael Fassbender think if it is Denzel Washington, how could you possibly ask for better? But I think I have my doubts that it could actually be legitimate. I don't know. How are you feeling about it? Let's say it was true. If it was, would you like the casting? Maybe not. Do you think like I do that it's probably not true at all in the first place? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick moment and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Ridge. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Ridge. All right, guys, let's talk wallets for a second. If you are still using that bulky, falling apart, overstuffed leather wallet, then it's time for an upgrade. I've had my eye on Ridge wallets for a couple of years now, and I finally recently made the switch to it, and I am absolutely never going back. This thing looks great. It's sleek, ultra minimalist, and can hold up to 12 cards plus cash, all without bulking up my pockets. It's made from high performance materials like carbon fiber and titanium, meaning it's built to last a lifetime. Ridge will even back it with a lifetime warranty. And this thing has the dual combo of looking great and being far more comfortable than that thick wallet. Because there's no win with the thick wallet, right? Like if you put it in your back pocket, it's uncomfortable to sit down, and it looks absolutely stupid in the front of your pants if you shove it into your front pocket. And right now, Ridge is having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/Campea. Just head over to ridge.com/Campea to see their biggest sale of the year. Now, after you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that I sent you. Once again, that's ridge.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Ridge for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that down, let's get on over to your questions and comments here, shall we? Jonathan, what do we got up first?
We got Rob, who says, are you a fan of Akira Kurosawa? If so, what do you think is his best movie? I mean, I liked Rashomon a lot.
I was going to say, like a lot of people say Rashomon, but I'm going to go with, it's the cop-out. It's the one so many people say, but it's true. It's Samurai.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why, the Seven Samurai has been remade in different fashions throughout the decades.
Yeah, I mean, it's been done and used as the basis for a lot of other stuff, and maybe even done many, many, many times. But I mean, it's still to me the standard. So yeah, I'm going to say that.
It's hard to
All right.
beat it. Kevin Foggy Nelson says, "Hi John, just rewatched season 3 of Daredevil before starting the new Born Again. It actually made it kind of weird. Like in the last episode of season 3, Dex was obsessed with killing Karen, and in the beginning of Born Again, he killed Foggy when he had a clear shot at Karen as well. And what happened to Fisk going to prison? What do you make of it?"
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said that in the after show after the first 2 episodes. It's like, how exactly is he out of prison? And you know what? That's just one of those things. You ever watch the pitch meeting videos?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a couple of standard tropes. I love the pitch meeting videos. There's a couple of standard tropes he has in each one, right? The wow, 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 wow is always one of them. The barely an inconvenience.
Right.
That's one of them. But one of the other ones is when the producer asks a valid question and the writer says, "Hey, how about you get all the way off my back about that?" I feel like, or hey, shut up anyway, and then it goes on to something else. That's kind of what I feel like Daredevil has done with the whole Kingpin situation.
Yeah.
Like, hey, wasn't he in jail? Hey, how about you shut up? And then they just move on with the story. Now I could be way wrong about this, but I kind of got the impression that Bullseye was hired to kill Foggy specifically. For what reason and by who and for why, I don't know. But I had a feeling that his target was Foggy at the behest of somebody else. So again, I could be way wrong about that, but that's just kind of my guess. I'm sure we'll find out a little bit later in the series. All right, what's next?
All right. Well, this one unfortunately says this is for Chris, but I'll read it anyway. Have you seen Hallmark's The Way Home? Season 3 finale was the best hour of television. The show is beautifully designed, giving the audience breadcrumbs to the family mystery all throughout, then the most rewarding conclusion. But we're not sure if Chris has seen it. So
yeah, and just so you know, guys, like Chris and Rob, because they both have drives to get here, they are not here for the Q&A part of the show. Like after we're done discussing all the topics, they get to go home and get on with the other things they have to do. So they're never going to be here for that. And I have, unfortunately, Jonathan, never even heard of this show.
Yeah, nor have I.
Oh yeah. So so unfortunately we can't give any insight on it about that. Sorry about that, man. All right, what's next?
AL says 2 things about Dex from Daredevil. I call him Gex in reference to the video game Lizard. It just sounds funny. Every time we hear the bees sound effect whenever he goes mental, I just think of Not the Bees from Nick Cage's Wicker Man.
Can we just make an agreement with each other? Can we never mention Nicolas Cage's Wicker Man? That movie is like one of the epitomes of how did they ever think it was okay to release this? You know, like it was just like, look, there are some movies that you may think are really, really super bad, but they can appeal to other people and really like and stuff like that. Jonathan, I've never met anybody that said they like Nicolas Cage's The Wicker Man.
No.
Like, I just don't see how anybody could have thought that, oh yeah, audiences are going to dig this. It was just, I mean, it's like David Zaslav should have been around back then to just cancel the film after it was done shooting. Say, you can't release this garbage.
This is a tax cut.
You cannot release this. Oh, it's so bad. Let's agree to never bring that up again, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Anonymous. Hey, John, with less than 4 months now until Superman, I think we should get the official trailer any day now. The teaser was great, but the trailer will give us a better idea about the movie. I think CinemaCon release is likely. What do you think?
I still think there's a chance that they release that, not they release. I still believe there is an actual chance that they're going to show us Superman at CinemaCon.
Along those terms, I was thinking, do you think they're going to show you Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah.
That's coming out soon.
As a matter of fact, first of all, let's say this. That Superman thing was not a teaser. That was a trailer.
Yeah.
That was trailer 1. Trailer 1 did what a lot of first trailers do today. They just give you not a lot of exposition, not a lot of dialogue, just give you a taste of what the movie is, kind of announcing to the world that it's coming. Trailer 2 will then usually give us more of the story. Here's what this movie's about, right? So I expect that. Now, going into CinemaCon, I had a very strong belief. Nobody told me that this was the case. I just believed it. Marvel always shows a lot at CinemaCon, and I believed that Disney was going to show us Thunderbolts. I really did. Once that Lilo and Stitch trailer came out, though, I've totally changed my mind. They're going to show us Lilo and Stitch. They're 100%. They're going to show us Lilo and Stitch. I don't think it's going to be Thunderbolts, which bums me out. I was really hoping they'd actually show us Thunderbolts, but now I have a feeling if Disney is indeed showing us a full movie, as they often do, their movie is probably going to be Lilo. And you know what? I'm not upset about it. I can't wait to see this movie. I'm so after that trailer, man, I am so excited to see Lilo and Stitch. I can't even believe it. But yeah, it's probably not going to be
That's
Thunderbolts.
the one you want to kind of impress the theater owners with. You know what I mean? Lilo and Stitch. So.
I kind of feel like you need to get the theater owners really on board with this Thunderbolts movie, right? Because it's an MCU that is still in recovery mode. It's with a whole bunch of B-level characters. It's one you really got to get some momentum going for. That's why I really thought they would show us that. But now it kind of feels like it's going to be Lilo and Stitch. And again, I'm not complaining. I can't wait to see that movie. All right. What's next?
Anonymous says, hey, crew, I guess my Dogman, Wolfman joke yesterday was funnier in my mind. You know, I thought there was something odd about that comment.
I don't even remember it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he was talking about, like, it's great for the kids at Wolfman, and then he followed up with a Dogman, and he's like, oh, the body horror was terrible. And I was like, that seems like a weird follow-up. But it was one was from an Anonymous, and one was from their name, so I thought they were different people.
Like maybe it was two different people. Yeah.
So it didn't land.
All right, what's next?
All right. Ant Farmer. Confirmed White Tiger's niece will inherit the amulet and become the new member of relatively young Avengers movie. Source, McButt.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I don't know if... Okay, now I almost went down too deep of a rabbit hole. Man, I'll tell you what. That episode 3, it's not Last of Us episode 3.
Sure.
But that episode 3 of Daredevil, I keep calling it episode 2 because it's the second week that it's out. But that episode 3 of Daredevil was so good, man. And with the death of him and that little ending when the credits roll and then they start playing the Song of the Frogs, I tell you, man, I got emotional. That was a beautifully, beautifully done episode. And if that's what we can expect more of for the remainder of Daredevil, then I'm completely on board.
All right. Well,
all right. What's next?
Speaking of episode 3, Good Canadian Kid says, I wasn't completely on board with Born Again after how they handled Karen and Foggy in episode 1. It felt like they were shoehorned in and immediately removed in the span of 15 minutes just for a surface level tie into the Netflix show. But episode 3 was so good. I wish Foggy's death was given the same level of treatment as Hector's, which hit way harder in my opinion. But if the rest of the episodes are as good as episode 3, this show will be a worthy successor in my eyes.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here. I think keeping Karen and Foggy around longer would have been shoehorning because the story doesn't call for them to be in it. Right? Remember, story doesn't serve the characters. Characters serve the stories. And the death of Foggy, if you're going to actually have Matt walk away from being Daredevil, you got to give us a truly compelling reason that even we, the audience, would go, yep, I get it. I get why he would walk away. Not just like a little struggle of conscience. Oh, I don't know if I agree with what I'm doing. Nothing like that. You got to give us something on screen that makes even us as the audience go, yeah, I could totally get why he'd walk away. And there is nothing more poignant to that end than having Foggy die in connection with his Daredevil activities, right? So even though it was very quick, it was effective. And then they moved on with the story. And so I personally felt very good about them being in there. And listen, that's what everybody's saying. I felt like they just were there to tie into the original Netflix series, but that's what people wanted. You remember originally they weren't even going to be in it at all.
Right.
And people got kind of upset. And so there they are. And narratively speaking, they played a very important part. It just wasn't a big part, but it was an important part. And I kind of feel like keeping them around longer, that would have been the shoehorn, you know? And so I kind of really, I appreciate the way. And I still think episode 3 was much better than 1 and 2, but I was on board with how they handled that in the first 2 episodes. Just myself personally. That's all. All right, what's next?
You guys want Foggy, huh? All right, we'll show you Foggy. TJ says...
How's this? Foggy with a bullet to the chest.
Yeah. Well, you can listen to his heart slow down to a stop. TJ says Invincible season 3 finale was peak. The season's animation was a weak point, but the conquest fight was everything I hoped for as a diehard fan of the comic. So pumped they plan to release one season every year from now on.
I gotta say, I've mentioned this before. I loved Invincible season 1. Almost tapped out of the show from season 2. Like season 2, I did not think was very good, to be honest with you. And so when season 3 started, I wasn't even sure I was going to watch it, but I did. And I am happy to report that season 3 was a significant upgrade to season 2. And yes, of course, Conquest shows up at the end of the last episode, right? Now, I haven't watched the finale yet because to me, I usually watch them on Thursdays. That and new episodes of Reacher. I tend to watch those on Thursdays.
Yeah.
But Conquest shows up, right? And like, if you've read the graphic novel stuff of Invincible, Conquest is badass. Conquest is awesome, right? And so when he shows up at the end of the last episode, you're like, all right, business is about to pick up. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. All right, what's next?
We got Yaba. Says John, I like the idea of Amazon.
Oh, that's Yabba Dabba Doo.
Oh, Yabba Dabba Doo. Okay, there we go. I like the idea of Amazon giving Nolan his own isolated Bond trilogy with his own version of Bond and story arc, like how he made his Batman trilogy for Warner Brothers. Then, like Batman, he could release one every 5-ish years with an original film between.
Never going to happen. Nolan simply has since the Batman stuff said he doesn't really want to do franchises anymore. And by the way, Jonathan, can you look this up for me?
Yeah.
How long ago was The Dark Knight Returns?
Okay, yeah.
Because it's been a beat. I mean, it doesn't feel like that long.
It's been like at least 10 or 11 years. I think Laura and I were just married.
Really?
The Dark Knight Rises, you mean?
Sorry, Dark Knight Rises. Sorry,
2012.
2012. So we're talking 13 years ago.
Oh, we were dating, me and Laura. We weren't even married yet.
It's so now, could I see Christopher Nolan doing a James Bond movie? Yes. Could I see Christopher Nolan doing a James Bond trilogy? No. And that was one of the big sticking points before, because I think Christopher Nolan also wants like almost complete creative control.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you're in charge of a franchise, you shouldn't just give out complete creative control for somebody who's only committing to stick around for one movie. Listen, even if it's Christopher Nolan, because they can do whatever they want and then leave you with the fallout. I'm just doing the one movie. Bye. Now you got to deal with the rest of the franchise. So like from what I understood, the conversations were like, okay, more creative control needs to come along with more commitment. Like we're willing to give you more creative control, but in exchange for more creative control, we want more of a commitment to you because we want to see that you're committed to it, that you'll stick around for this. And he wasn't. So I don't think we're going to see that happen. Again, I still think it's possible we see him do a Bond movie. I still think it's possible we're going to see him do a trilogy. Maybe he has a come to Jesus moment and changes his mind. I hope he does. But I just don't think we should expect that to happen. All right. What's next?
Okay, Mark Choi says, I saw an early screening of Black Bag last night. Chalk up another masterpiece for Soderbergh. Everyone was great. Fassbender also, but don't think this one will get that huge boost he's waiting for.
You know what? It's fine. Fassbender doesn't need a hit.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs a movie that people think is really good.
Yes.
Because he hasn't done that in a long time. Remember that movie he did, The Snowman? Remember that?
Yeah.
That was supposed to kind of like be what was it? Kiss the Girls kind of movie.
Yeah.
Supposed to be kind of a Hannibal Lecter, just a thriller, catch a murderer kind of thing. Snowman was horrible. And right around the same time he did that Light Between Oceans. Horrible. And then he did this other thing that I can't remember the name of it now that was horrible.
First Goal Wins?
Well, Next Goal Wins.
Next Goal Wins, I mean.
Next Goal Wins. The Taika Waititi thing, man, I wanted to like that. And that was just bad. He is such a world-class actor. He needs to be in better material. So even if this doesn't end up being a big hit, I think just being a beloved movie is going to do a lot to revive. I mean, it's not like his career was dead. Let's not exaggerate, but it's going to do a lot to breathe new life into this exceptional actor's career. And I really hope it does that. All right. What's next?
Okay, Mark Choi follows up with a $20 tip.
Thank you, Mark.
He says, for a black bag, FNAMC started the film only 4 minutes after the posted showtime. 4 minutes. I missed 10 minutes. Wanted to walk out, but was with a group. Saw many early screenings that showed full trailers. Sucks. Manager had no idea. He gave us refunds. He was cool.
Hey, listen. Kudos to that manager.
It must have been a mistake where they just ran all of their like AMC internal ads and didn't run trailers.
But it happens sometimes at AMC.
Yeah.
See, this is the frustrating part about it. Like, whenever I go on my big rant about how it is absolutely offensive and unacceptable starting a movie 25 to 30 minutes after your advertised start time. Unacceptable. I'll always get the theater sheeps who then say, well, John, then just go and show up 25 minutes late and you don't have to worry about it. Oh, really? Because see, if it was that simple, great. But I have myself on multiple times showed up 20, 25 minutes after the start time, because that's normally when they actually get around to starting a movie, and find that I missed the first 10 or 15 minutes. Because, we started it earlier this time. Oopsie, you better come a half hour early every time and sit through all of our commercials. Fuck you. That's infuriating to me.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be an asshole and start the movies 25 to 30 minutes late, by the way, you're killing movie going. Just so you know, hey, listen, movie theater owners. I love the movie theaters. Love them. The only reason I get mad is because I love you so much. But here's the thing. Every year I listen to the damn movie theater owners go, well, wait a minute. Why is movie theater attendance declining? Oh, I don't know. Maybe you tell people that a movie starts at 6. So they book their time, they get a babysitter, all kind of stuff. Oh, and they show up after paying $40 for a couple of movie tickets, only to find out that they got to sit through a half hour of fucking commercials. Anyway. What you just brought up is also just adds to the imperium of anger, which is then they really try to bush you by every once in a while starting it earlier than they think they would. And they're like, oopsie, you missed the first 15 minutes of the movie. I rage with the fire of 1,000 burning suns when that happens. It really pisses me off. But I'm glad you had a good theater manager, because AMC has a lot of great theater managers. I've worked with several of them. They're fantastic. And I'm really glad that you got refunded. That was really classy on their part. All right. What's next?
Excuse me. Anonymous says, Adolescence on Netflix looks good with Stephen Graham. It's about a teenager who gets arrested for murder. I have just watched the advert now. The lad in the trailer is frightening when he says he's only 13 years of age. I'm going to binge that today. Adolescence.
I love Stephen Graham, but I've never even heard of the show.
Well, it's Netflix, so why would you?
Oh, yeah. Why would you have heard it? Because Netflix never advertises their stuff. Yeah, that's too bad. But I do love Stephen Graham. I probably never watch it. I'm not going to lie, but I will keep my eye open for it though, because I do like him. So thanks for putting that on my radar, man, because it wasn't before. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Zen, who says, what's up, John? Big fan of all you guys and a huge fan of Robert. After yesterday's show, I wanted to share my pitch for John Wick 5. I want John Wick to literally fight his way out of hell. He did die in 4. He's coming back for vengeance.
That was brought up by other people too. I've literally seen other people bring up
the supernatural.
Would be cool if he fought his way out of hell. So make a Constantine movie.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
so you're saying, okay, imagine this. Keanu Reeves plays this guy who literally fights the forces of hell. Oh, Constantine. Here's the thing though. Did he die in 4? We never see him die. And the second thing is, as fantastical as John Wick is, it's not a supernatural show, right? Even with all the mythology of the high table, there's no actual supernatural elements. There's no science fiction elements. John, one guy can't actually do that. Yeah. They're exaggerating reality, but it's exaggerated reality. I don't think we're going to see John Wick pull a gun and have a 6-shooter blowout with the devil. So yes, I would personally not be for it. I keep it within even if it's an exaggerated real world, keep it within the exaggerated real world. I don't think we need to be bringing Satan into it. All right, what's next?
This time, hell's coming with him.
This time.
Dennis says, in a two-parter, Heat, 1995, is one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's fantastic.
Something never sat well with me, and that's how did Wayne Grow about the bank heist at the end to be able to tip off the police. Well, it turns out there's 2 minutes of deleted scenes that explains. What are your thoughts about directors deleting scenes that literally create plot holes by deleting them? Is it really worth confusing your audience in order to save a few minutes of runtime? Thanks, John and crew.
Here's the thing. So much gets edited out of a movie to make the movie, right? And as a director, the good directors know if something isn't absolutely needed to be there, it doesn't matter if it's good or not, it should be taken out for the betterment and the overall flow of a movie. Tight, paced, all that kind of stuff. While you are not wrong, I've hardly ever heard anybody mention that as a point of confusion for them. I'll be honest with you. I think you're the first person I've ever heard bring it up.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things where maybe if you sat and thought about it, wait a minute, how did this happen? The director may say it's not really important to know how it happened. It's just important that it did. So, I mean, listen, I think you can make an argument for almost any deleted scene about why or reason it should stay in. But again, the reality is like hours and hours of footage gets left on the cutting room floor. That's not literal anymore because they don't actually edit physical film anymore, but you know what I'm saying. So I am all for directors making tough creative choices and asking the question, is it necessary that this scene be in here? Is it necessary for the service of the movie for that shot to be there? And if not, you got to cut it out. I remember one of my favorite director commentaries of all time is the one for Braveheart. And Mel Gibson, the director of Braveheart, doing his commentary. And I remember he said something to me that has always stuck with me. He talked about some scenes they deleted between a couple of other scenes, right? And he said, people don't understand. Like, he said, oh, edit that out. Sounds easy, right? Because you don't understand. This one scene that we cut out, we spent 2 weeks setting up and creating the sets on this one location, and then choreographing it, blocking it, and then actually shooting it over the course of a couple of days. We spent weeks making that scene.
And you're just going to delete it.
And I had to make the decision to delete it. And he said this, he said, editing out a scene like that is like, he said this, is like killing one of your own children. And that really stuck with me. But the great directors are the ones who can do it, who look at their stuff and go, this is great, but it can be better if we remove this one thing I love. I love this thing, but it's not making my overall thing better. And we got to remove it. And I'm okay with it. And as long as it doesn't leave your audience completely confounded, which this didn't, then I think you're okay to do it.
Yep.
Anyway, that's what makes directing so hard, man, and why I respect directors so much. All right, what's next?
Okay, here's our last of the tips. Jerry says, hey, crew, I think for Denzel, a role that fits him would be Blue Marvel or either a one-shot villain like Achebe. What do you think?
I think you go younger for Blue Marvel. If you're going to go that way. Otherwise, a Wakandan specific villain makes sense if it's just going to be that. But honestly, if I'm Kevin Feige and Denzel came into my offices and says, Kevin, I like what you do, man. I am clay in your hands. Put me in whatever role you want. You're damn right I'm making it Magneto. I am 100% making it Magneto.
Yeah.
If that fictitious scenario happened and Denzel walked in the office and said, hey, I love what the MCU, my kids love it, my grandkids love it, I want to be a part of it, tell me what role you want me to play and I'll do it. It's 100% Magneto all day, every day. But again, it would make sense to be a Wakandan specific guy. I think he's a little aged out for Blue Marvel myself, but yeah. All right. Let's go over now to take a couple of our member questions for a couple of minutes here, shall we? Jonathan, what have some of our beloved channel members written in?
We got Sean, who says, "Hey guys, no question. I just wanted to thank you all for your hard work, dedication. I listen to your show from work, and it's the best part of the day, a work day. No matter what combination is on the show, you guys are the real Fantastic Four."
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that very much, and thank you so much for being one of our channel members. We really appreciate it, man.
Then we got Spencer, who says Dexter Resurrection cast is crazy stack. Kristen Ritter, Neil Patrick Harris, Uma Thurman, Peter Dinklage, Eric Stone Street, and just today, David Dastmalchian. I love David Dastmalchian.
I love Eric Stone Street.
Yeah. I mean, that whole cast is great.
It's so funny because I think Ann and I were just talking about how listen, seriously, the writing on Modern Family was such a wonderful, it was such a wonderfully written show. But I remember Ann and I came across like an episode playing. It's like, we just laughed our asses off at it for a minute. And I said, I don't think I've seen Eric Stone Street in anything but some commercials since then. And he's great. I had no idea he was going to be in the new Dexter series. That's great. All right. What's next?
Oh, this is cool. JCSC, Jeff Daniels is joining Shrinking Season 3 as Jimmy's dad. I'm completely on board for that. Completely on board for Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels as his dad?
Wow. This might be the best season.
Oh my God, that just made my day. That's definitely going to be a topic on the show tomorrow.
Yeah.
So let me go and look into that. I love Jeff Daniels. He's so great. And as Jimmy, I can totally picture him as Jimmy's dad too.
100%.
I'm on board. This sounds great. I love the news. Thanks for sharing that with me, man.
Vicog says, now that we know the last 2 episodes were part of the original Born Again series, I want to know what they're going to do before the overhaul because it's been amazing.
Well, I mean, it wasn't. Because Karen and Foggy were not a part of it.
Exactly.
Originally. I mean, look, we always knew that they were going to recycle and salvage some of the stuff that they shot, to try to save as much money as they could. They were going to try to reuse some of the stuff they had shot for the original iteration of what Daredevil Born Again was going to be and use that in this. But it's not in its entirety. I mean, it's edited, it's picked and chosen. Chosen. I'm just going to make up the English language now. So yeah, it's just something you got to keep in mind. All right, let's take 2 more.
Okay, Captain Obvious says, hello. So I was wondering, do you think that Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are connected? They are the last 2 Marvel films before Doomsday, and I wonder if they will lead into Doomsday. They might be connected in certain ways, how they connected Doomsday, but I don't think they're different worlds.
Yeah, no, I think they're connected in as much as they're both in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But if you think like an event in Thunderbolts directly leads us into the events of Fantastic Four, no, I wouldn't be looking for that connection at all. All right, last question.
Mike Price, hey, John and crew. As a longtime movie fan, should the industry rethink their current model and lean back to the days of the 90s and 2000s when movies had longer theatrical runs? Yes, and home movie markets were thriving and creating a second profit from movies. I miss the good old days, honestly, before all these streaming services became the norm. The problem isn't the streaming service. The problem is the window. It's
the philosophy of them.
Yeah.
It's how they're being used.
Yeah.
Listen, you can have your opinions about this, that, and the other thing, but numbers are numbers. The movie industry as a whole was far more profitable under the old model. It just was. That's not debatable. That the numbers are there. It's an irrefutable fact that the industry as a whole was more profitable back then when windows had robust, real theatrical windows, and then that created a bigger secondary home market. Streaming is in many ways, I mean, it's different, but in many ways it's just the next evolution of VHS, DVD, Blu-ray streaming, right? And they used to be far more. If you ever saw that interview with Matt Damon on Hot Ones, when he talked about the secondary home market now, he goes, it used to mean something. It used to be a valid addition to the revenue you'd make. And Matt Damon said, today it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not. That's because of the way it's being approached. Streaming is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Wonderful thing.
They're cannibalizing themselves.
But they're using it the wrong way and
Right.
cannibalizing their own industry.
You know what it is? It was terrible timing that streaming came along and its popularity blossomed during the pandemic when we had no choice but to stream at home. And then they saw this new thing as if it was a new medium and people were going to flock to this and theaters were done. Then they realized, no, wait, we're coming out of this pandemic and people want to be out. They've got to readjust. They've got to change their gears up.
Yeah, for no, not for any, just for the principle of it. No. For money.
Yeah.
For the good of the business.
For the studios and the theaters alike.
And the secondary, and for the streamers. Listen, David Zaslav even came out and said, listen, we have realized we will have more success with streaming.
Yeah.
The more we put movies in theaters and give them real theatrical windows.
I'm very curious.
Then our streaming does better.
Yeah.
It's good for everybody. Anyway, we are slowly, like Jonathan just kind of pointed out, we are slowly starting to see, and we have for the last year or two, the entertainment industry realize, we need to go back to some of the ways we were doing things pre-pandemic. And I think that's, pardon me, going to continue.
Yeah. And
yeah, hopefully we'll get back to that place. Because I want to see a thriving industry.
It'll be interesting if they bring this stuff up at CinemaCon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the movie theaters, the CinemaCon is the movie theater thing, right? So it's every CinemaCon is a theaters first kind of message.
So
and the streamers aren't there.
Yeah.
No,
but I mean for longer runs in the theater.
That has to be a part of it. Listen, guys, that's going to do it for the show. And now some of you may be looking at the clock and thinking, wow, this is a short episode. It is. And I didn't want to post any of this online or anything like that. I'm having a rough day. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I'm having a rough day. I've got the veneer on, but like a pirate's treasure, I bury my feelings deep. Some of you may know, just a couple of months ago, well, for the last 17 years, Ann and I have had these two dogs, our two dachshunds, Lily and Shadow. Ann had Lily before I even met her. Ann has had Lily for 17 years. We adopted Shadow like 1 year after we started our relationship. So we've had Shadow in our lives for 15 years. Lily, of course, died just a couple of months ago. You guys remember me talking about that. And it was really, again, Ann's had her since she was hold her in the palm of her hand puppy. And that was really tough. And then we've had Shadow for about 15 years. She was 16 years old. And Shadow died last night. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty wrecked about it. We've had this little girl with this little puppy with us for 15 years, and we've lost both of them in the span of a couple of months, and it's a hard day. I decided the show must go on, and there are people who are dealing with things way harder than I'm dealing with. I lost a pet, but there are people dealing with other things that are harder. Maybe they just need a little bit of consistency in their day. So I decided we were still going to do the John Campea Show today, because there are people out there who have it a lot worse than I do. Like I lost a pet, but so we're going to cut today's show about 20 minutes short, because that's about as much as I can do. But I want to thank you all for being here and joining us for our show today. Please come back and join us again tomorrow, as we'll have more stuff to talk about, including Jeff Daniels apparently joining Shrinking, which I'm very, very excited about. So thank you guys. I want to thank Jonathan Voico for being here.
See you guys tomorrow.
Of course, Robert Meyer Burnett, who's on the road right now on his way home. But most importantly, thank you to you guys for being here, taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it. That'll do us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.